Hello and welcome back to another episode of More Than a Business Live. I am your host, Mitch Case. I am also the co-founder of my wife and I's company, More Than a Meal, where we help organizations strengthen their relationships with their employees and their clients by showing gratitude, appreciation, and empathy, one meal at a time. We come live to you guys every single Thursday at 3 p.m. Central Time with the intent to introduce leaders within organizations, as well as organizations that truly run the vibe, run the idea that they can be more than a business. So today we've got an amazing guest today that goes beyond just the business side and even some personal side of things to truly create organizations that are more than a business and develop leaders that are focused on people. So before I introduce our guest today, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, True Captive. If you haven't heard of True Captive, they believe in healthcare that is personal and insurance that is not complicated. So if you do want to learn more about this unique captive healthcare program, you can find them at truecaptive.com. You can reach out to myself and I'd be happy to get you introduced. So with that, I don't want to hold our guest back any longer. Today's guest is Evan Wilson. He is I love the title because it is unique in itself, where he's the SVP for financial well-being, also the life and dream coach. So we're going to dive into that and a little bit more about what drives Evan on the day-to-day basis and hearing a little bit more about Meritrust Credit Union. So with that, Evan, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Mitch. Really honored to be here and excited to share a little bit about what we do day to day here at Meritrust.
Heck yeah. Well, this is truly a live show. The testament behind that is technology is always crazy. So we're a little bit late to the beginning of the show because Evan and I didn't know what to do when technology wasn't working, but we're going to get back on track here real quick. Evan, real quick before we dive into the meat of this, go ahead and let us know specifically like what that title means within Meritrust, what you guys do, and just like kind of high level for us. And then we'll dive right into that impact story.
Great. Well, thank you, Mitch. One of the things that we do here at Meritrust is we've had a mission statement for a long time to invest in the lives of our members and the communities we serve. And while that mission statement is still alive and well, one of the things that we begin to recognize is that what is a way that we can really take this to the next level? And so we put together a purpose statement to create financially healthy employees and members. And we know that when we look at the population at large, if we were to do some evaluations, we partner with an organization called the Financial Health Network. And when they do national studies, what they identify is that about 68% of our population would be financially vulnerable or financially coping. And what that means is that they're struggling with one or more of the four pillars of how they spend, how they save, how they borrow, and how they plan. And so we are focused on coming alongside of our members to walk with them to better. We're not judgmental. It's not about that if you're not healthy, we don't want to talk to you. It's about let's just help you grow from wherever you are. And we can do that. We have to help you and create spending plans. We used to call them budgets, but that's not a popular term anymore. So we call it a spending plan, and that seems to gain a little bit more traction. And we meet with about
I love the marketing
members.
in that.
We meet with about 800 members every year and just setting down and helping them to create a spending plan.
Evan, one of the things that you even started off with the purpose statement, which kind of caught my ears a little bit, was the fact that not only is the word members in your purpose statement, but employees
Right.
was in that mission statement, purpose statement. That to me is extremely unique. I've not heard that before. And even as we're going through our own mission statements and plans and visions and all this kind of stuff,
Right.
very rarely do we think about the internal customer that we have that can be obviously a huge part of that plan. So I do want to dive into that more. Before we go and do that, though, I would love to just kind of talk about a quick impact story, something that you or maybe Meritrust has done to directly impact a team member, one of your members of the credit union, or potentially even just a community member in general.
Right, right. So you're right, Mitch, in that when we started to identify and create the plan for how do we live this out day by day, our purpose statement is far more than just a slogan that's on a website or something that we mention from time to time. It's what we are intent to live. And as we begin to identify, one of the core pillars is really the save bucket. And without going into a lot of detail, the general characteristic is that most individuals do not have the ability to cover an unexpected $400 expense. And so, while saving is hard, and we understand that, we just have to be incredibly intentional to do that. Now, while it's not possible for us to truly make that difference in everyone's life, we started with our employees. And so in December of this year, every employee of Meritrust received a $400 allotment that was
Emergency
given to
fund?
them to fully fund that beginning savings fund. And we believe that's where we start saying, we mean it. Come along with us on this journey. We want to help you grow, and we're going to help you get started.
Wow. I don't know off the top of my head how many team members you guys have, but I'm sure it's not like two or three.
Yeah,
Um,
355.
okay, so a small investment from that
Right.
perspective. Um, does that like is that day one? Just as far as getting invasive in that question, like day one
Yes.
employment, here's a $400 piece, or is it vested over a certain number of weeks, months, year?
Yeah. So that was a one time, we're standing on this. And because we introduced the purpose statement in 2023, we wanted to make our mark in 2023. So that was a special thing that occurred uh, to and for our employees at that time.
Wow. I love that. I sit here and um, just from my own perspective of starting our own business, it's very difficult, especially from a financial perspective.
Right.
Being able to raise my hand in that bucket of, man, I hope we don't get a flat tire right now because I don't know how we're going to be able to afford that because we're putting so much time, energy, and dollars into this. So that gesture just being um, given slash earned to those individuals, I can just imagine the amount of relief that has, especially when you have no idea what individuals are going through. So, man, that is just what kind of impact did that have for team morale? What was the response when they found out that was happening?
I
Like, what
think
did
that,
that do?
yeah, yeah, we obviously received many, many acknowledgments in different forms, in the form of emails, in the forms of personal thank yous, and that was really great. But along with that was the challenge of, so we've planted the seed, now let's grow together, and we really have to be focused on that. You and I both know that just because we did this one time, that doesn't solve the problem forever for any one of our employees. We must be intentional in how we live life in our financial lives and in the way that we're investing in the lives of everyone as we live life.
Yeah.
And so it's all connected. And that also attaches to the ways that we have our core values and how we live those out as well.
Well, let's talk more about that side of things. I know I already kind of maybe stole some thunder in the sense that your purpose statement literally has your team members in it.
Right.
I can't think of other organizations, not to take away from the amazing organizations that have even been on this show, but I can't name one other company that I've heard where the word team members or employees was in their purpose statement. So beyond that, what are some things from the credit union side that you see is like truly become more than a business?
Yeah. So um, from the very beginning, we're really trying to to just state to them how important they are. So we're in banking, right? So assets are a big part of our conversations, but at the very beginning, when the leadership team goes down and welcomes the new hires in there, we begin talking this phrase of, you are our most important asset. You are the ones that will truly make a difference. When we have community service days where we really desire for our employees to go out, and we give them a day to go out and pick the nonprofit that's important to them, we want them to go out and serve the community. And when we do that, we are giving the gift of our most important asset to go out and to serve the nonprofits. Um, yeah, Meritrust does write checks to nonprofits, but we really want to partner with nonprofits. And so let's figure out a way that we can come together. And as we grow and as we serve together, we know that we get closer together.
There is so much like what I've seen after having many conversations with, I'll just say, credit unions in general. There's just an innate desire or part of the ethos to truly be in the community. And like you said, not just write checks, and not to take away from those that do, like those are needed as well. And those are very, very powerful. However, just a unique way to really bring team members together to serve those organizations. I'm kind of curious, and maybe I missed it when you were talking. Do you allow those team members to focus on nonprofits of their choice that are near and dear to themselves? How do you guys kind of determine what is, where is that time going to go?
Yeah, so they go out and they pick what's important to them. What's their passion? We focus a lot on passion. Life and dream coaching is really connecting. The passions of life are often provided for or made possible because we have this job that provides us pay every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And because we have a job, now we can go out and we can spend our time, we can give to the nonprofits that make a difference. So we had about 3,700 hours into the community. That was what our employees invested in the past year. And they did that in 178 different organizations.
Oh my.
And so that kind of starts to tell the diversity of the many, 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 many different ways that our employees say, yeah, I'm all in. I want to go and I'm going to make a difference here. The only thing we ask is that they're truly a nonprofit. And so we try to keep it simple.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I've always really kind of talked about so often, even myself, when I hit like that 10-year mark in my career, is like, man, what am I going to do? Am I going to do this for the rest of my life? I got to find out what I'm passionate about or purposeful in the work that I do. And what I recognized through kind of that journey, it was not necessarily like my job could be a means to do that purpose driven work, to have the flexibility, to have the financial capabilities to go do those things that you love to do, whether paid or unpaid. So I really admire organizations that set that in place to allow their team members to go out and be able to serve the things that are near and dear to themselves. I've had certain situations where we were going to support one organization, but not that it was a bad organization. It just didn't resonate with me. So I was just there kind of doing my thing versus like understanding truly what was happening and the impact that can have. So kudos to you guys on that side. I want to dive into you for these last 7 to 10 minutes, Evan. Like, from our very first conversation, I felt very comfortable in having conversations with you and just what you believe in inside the work that you do within the credit union, but even outside the credit union. So I always like to ask the question at the very end of the show for the guest is, what truly motivates you day in and day out to really serve the people that you're blessed to serve? And I want to open that question up to those individuals that you get to speak to from a leadership perspective as well. So maybe give us some insight on like what continues to motivate you to be that life and dream coach within Meritrust and outside of that.
Yeah. So, hopefully we all have a passion in life. And for me, my personal passion is to invest in the lives of others using the tool of relational leadership. I believe that we have the opportunity to get a little bit better. And as we get a little bit better, we can just really pour into the lives of others and to help them be more effective. Not just at work. While work is important, we don't have to shy away from that, but we want them to be growing as an individual so they're great at work. They're wonderful when they go home and they spend time with their family. And then when they go into the community and the nonprofits and following their passions, whatever that might look like, that same individual is just really making an impact in all of those areas. And so when we really stop and we say, that means I'm going to have to develop some character qualities that's going to be true to me in all of these locations, in all of these spaces. I can show up and be real in them. Here at Meritrust, we focus very, very heavily on servant leadership. Servant leadership has some characteristics that talk about we have to remain humble. And when we're talking about being humble, that says regardless of what skills, abilities, talents, and strengths that I might have, I know that I need to get better today. And when I have that heart of I want to get better, but not so that I can be king of the mountain, but then I can take that gift of me and give it to somebody else, then that's when life becomes very, very rewarding. And so I have the opportunity to go out and work with organizations across the country and even a little internationally to go out and just pour into them and to give them a little different perspective on how they can approach the life relationships that they are blessed to be a part of.
There's so many things to kind of unpack inside of that, especially those individuals that are on that path. I have a lot of friends, honestly, in that space where you just kind of hit that 12 to 15 year mark and you're like, is this what I'm going to do? How can I use? I don't even know what my gifts are. So, like, Evan, as you're speaking, and this was a totally unprepared question for you, like, how do you help those individuals understand their unique gifts? Because I do truly believe that each and every one of us have been given a gift. And sometimes it does take some work to figure out exactly what that is. Other times we don't see it in ourselves, but other people see it. So what are some tools, some ideas that people can start to think of? What is my gift?
Great question. As I'm thinking quickly here,
Yeah. Feel free
I
to
think
come back and answer that in the comments later, because that was totally unannounced for you.
no, that's fine. I think there's a few ways we can do it. Number one, we can really, you can take the notepad and you can start just writing down the things that bring you joy as you do them in the course of a day or a week or a month. And then figure out how to do more of it. And as you start doing that, we don't have to make this rocket science. We can just start figuring out that, you know what, that really fills my bucket. When I do that, when I get the chance to just talk with someone, maybe the skill that you're good at or that really fills you up is when you're an encourager. Well, that's a skill that we need more and more all the time. And what I want to focus on is the ways in which that we can build that muscle, which means we have to practice. We practice today to be better tomorrow. And so how can we practice even at the things we're good at? There's a lot of conversation that's going on in leadership. When we're doing a performance review, we talk about often what the employee's not good at. Well, let's spend more time in talking about what they are good at and have them do more of it.
More of that.
Yeah.
That concept is so, I mean, I hear that through even just the school side of things too, and just focusing in on the things that we're really good at and focusing in on how we can really implore that individual. I've got a kindergarten or a first grader right now, and it's, he doesn't like art. And I'm like, well, there's some things you just got to do the work. But, once you get a little bit older, you can then figure out if art is your thing or not and dive deeper in that and focusing on the talents that we do have. I love that just from a performance review, because so often, I'm going through this entrepreneurial operating system idea, the EOS, and we talk about having the right person in the right seat on the right bus. And so often we just find the a person that is an amazing individual, but we have them in a position that's not at their peak performance or ultimately drains them through that work versus increases that energy. So having that as part of performance review is I love that idea, and just that concept in general is like, let's focus on what you're doing really, really well.
Right, right. And don't discount it if you're not perfect at it, because what
Ooh.
we're focusing on is how do I get better, and instead of stopping if I'm not perfect, So I have the goal at some point that I'll do leadership training, when I retire. Well, how do I prepare for that? I practice now. So I've done about 135 workshops right now. I'm still practicing.
Yeah.
And when we do that over and over again, we strengthen that muscle and we get a little bit better. We learn what works and what doesn't.
Well, message received. I don't know if anybody was behind me that you were talking to, but you spoke to me about perfection is not the goal when you're getting
Right.
started. So I really definitely appreciate those words. I'm taking that to heart personally, as that can be tough to admit, because I like to be perfect. However, not every day. Evan, as you are continuing to build this muscle and practice that, obviously there's a lot of different areas that people maybe want to actually hear more about what you're doing outside or even inside Meritrust. What's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you to hear more of your story, more about Meritrust, more about your leadership speaking engagements?
Yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best way. Just reach out. I'd love to connect with you, and to have a conversation. You can always reach out to me if you have an engagement that you want to coach leadership consulting at gmail.com, and be glad to respond and to have a conversation of what would work for you.
I will just, you're too humble, Evan, in the sense that anybody that does reaches out to Evan, I would just say that you will come away energized and maybe even some more questions on ways that you need to kind of dig deep. But I just speaking from my interaction with you already, Evan, you come from a leadership heart, and I felt that through our conversation. So anybody that does reach out, I know for a fact, I just want to echo, reach out to him, grab a time to hear more about the work that he is doing, because you will be energized from that. So I definitely appreciate our conversations, Evan. And before we kind of wrap this up, part of our organization, More Than a Meal, my wife and I, we truly do just want to say how much we appreciate the time that you've given to be on this show. And part of that, what we wanted to do is be able to offer a meal as a gift to someone that you believe is deserving, whether that's a tough time that they need to just have some love, or maybe it's a time of recognition and joy that a meal can never hurt. So as much as you're willing to share, who might that be and why?
I just like to recognize my lifelong friend, Tony Hager. He is the senior director at Youth Horizons. He is focusing and giving of his time and talents and resources to invest in the lives of at-risk youth. This is absolutely an example of somebody with tremendous skills and abilities who could do virtually anything that he wanted, and yet he chooses to make a difference with the youth, the kids at Youth Horizons, and it's a very worthy charity, and he is a very, very worthy recipient. So thank you so much for that kind gesture, and for the opportunity for me to recognize my dear friend Tony.
Awesome. Well, Tony, I'll just grateful for that work that you do. Evan, if you don't mind, after this kind of ends, you can throw a link to the nonprofit in the comments here. And if anybody's listening and wants to learn more about that, you can go there. Otherwise, Evan, we'll get in touch after this and make sure Tony can receive that meal. Well, with that, we've kind of reached the end of our time, Evan. Again, I am incredibly grateful for you to come on here and just speak wisdom and the experiences that you have had, and all the efforts that you have. So I just, again, want to encourage anybody to reach out to Evan after this show. And with that, we will be back next Thursday at 3 p.m. Central Time. We've got a reschedule from one because I had kids running everywhere that were sick. We had to cancel the show that day. So it's a reschedule, and I can't wait to actually have him back on the show because it is a live show. Things happen like that, but I couldn't be more excited to welcome David back on the show here in just a little bit. But all I want to do now is just really encourage all of you to continue strengthening those relationships, both personal relationships and professional relationships, because they really, really do mean a lot to those on the receiving end of that. So with that, Evan, we are done, and I'll go ahead and kick us out with the outro.